All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're unpacking a truly thrilling, absolutely chaotic, and just endlessly fascinating excerpt from the Mahabharata's Swayamvara Parva. And what makes this specific sequence so incredibly captivating is that it's driven entirely by disguise and a massive, massive dose of dramatic irony. We're talking about one of the greatest battles in the epic, but get this, half the combatants don't even know who they're actually fighting. So let's set the stage.
Picture the scene. You have a furious, heavily armed army made up of the world's absolute greatest and most powerful kings, and they are charging forward, just eager for slaughter. And stepping up to fight this basically unstoppable royal war machine, well, it's men assumed to be humble, peace-loving priests. As the kings charge, these priests literally shake their garments and shout this incredibly defiant battle cry, "Fear not, we will fight the foe." It's just a wild moment of defiance.
Which brings us to the central mystery that makes this text so fun to read, and really, the core question of our explainer today. Why on earth are priests dressed in deerskins fighting the greatest kings on earth? While the arrogant monarchs charging into battle have absolutely no idea what they're walking into. They really believe they're attacking ordinary Brahmanas, but in reality, they are attacking the legendary Pandava brothers, specifically the unmatched warriors Arjuna and Bhima, who are just hiding in plain sight, completely in disguise.
Part 1. The Unexpected Challenge, Brahmanas versus Kings.
Let's see how this conflict actually builds. The sheer visual absurdity of this matchup is just staggering. On one side, you have the expectation of warfare, right? An elite royal war machine with kings riding elephants and chariots, completely eager for a slaughter. And on the other side, the reality. They're clashing against men shaking deerskins and literally wielding coconut shell water pots. I mean, it looks like a total slaughter waiting to happen. The monarchs even yell out that slaughtering someone who actively desires to fight is completely permitted. It really makes you think about how dangerously we can misjudge a situation based purely on appearances.
But Arjuna, who is disguised in those very deer skins, is entirely unfazed by all this. He confidently turns to his fellow panicked priests and tells them to simply stand aside. Just act as spectators to the fray. He promises to subdue these kings just like a snake charmer subdues angry snakes with mantras. And with that said, he takes up his tough bow, and alongside his brother Bhima, they rush into the fray like two fearless elephants charging head-on against a hostile herd.
Part 2. An archery duel, Arjuna versus Karna.
With the battle now joined, the text immediately kicks into high gear, brilliantly illustrating these two totally distinct fighting styles happening simultaneously on the battlefield. In one matchup, you have Arjuna versus Karna. This is a mystical, high-speed archery duel characterized by witted arrows and magical energy, and they're moving so fast you can't even see their hands. Meanwhile, in the other matchup, it's Bhima versus the mighty King Salya, and this isn't about arrows at all. This is a brutal heavyweight wrestling match, fought with fists and knees like two elephants in rut. But first, let's look a little closer at that archery duel. Arjuna and Karna are fighting absolutely madly. They're shooting arrows with such lightness of hand that each becomes completely enveloped by the other's shower of arrows. I mean, they literally become invisible to the spectators. And out of that invisible cloud of arrows, you just hear these wild taunts. "Behold the strength of my arms," or "Mark how I have counteracted that feat." The source text actually notes that these words were a kind of combat language intelligible only to elite heroes. At one point, Karna actually faints momentarily from Arjuna's fierce arrows, but he recovers and fights back with even greater vigor. But Karna pretty quickly realizes he is outmatched, and so, the crucial point here is this incredible moment of dramatic irony. Karna actually halts the fight. He is completely stunned by the sheer energy of his opponent. He praises the priest's arms that show absolutely no relaxation, and he straight up asks him, "Who are you?" He realizes that no ordinary man could parry his arrows like this. He deduces that this fighter must be the embodiment of the science of weapons, or the great Rama, or the god Indra, or perhaps Kriti himself, which by the way is another name for Arjuna. Karna flat out states that no other person on earth is capable of fighting him when he's angry. So now, Arjuna has to talk his way out of this without blowing his cover. And he expertly maintains the disguise. He tells Karna, "No, I'm not the science of arms, I'm not Rama, I'm definitely not a god." He claims he's merely a Brahmana who, by the grace of his preceptor, has become accomplished in the Brahma and Parandara weapons, which are these highly advanced divine martial arts. He tells Karna to wait a little so he can vanquish him. And hearing this, the very respectful Karna backs down, because as a seasoned warrior, he truly believes that Brahma energy is ever invincible.
Part 3. the heavyweight match, Bhima versus Salya.
So while the arrows stop flying between Arjuna and Karna, we pan over to witness the raw, physical carnage of the second duel. Bhima and Salya engage in this punishing, close-quarters wrestling match. The source text describes them challenging each other like two elephants in rut. They are pushing, dragging, and throwing each other face downward and on their sides. There are zero bows here, just clenched fists and knees. And the impacts are so violently heavy that their blows sound exactly like the clash of two huge masses of granite. Literally, the entire battlefield rings with the sounds of their combat.
After a few seconds of this earth-shaking brawl, Bhima decides he's just going to end it. He picks Salya up in his arms and hurls him a massive distance away. But here is the most incredible part, the detail that absolutely terrifies the onlooking monarchs. Bhima throws him without hurting him much. It's an unbelievable display of dexterity and controlled power. Think about it, to throw a fully armored king that far, but have the precision to ensure he isn't severely injured, that requires a level of strength that is just superhuman.
Part 4, Krishna's ceasefire, ending the conflict.
Seeing the greatest warriors on Earth effortlessly neutralized like this, panic, and some quick deduction starts to ripple through the royal ranks. The alarmed kings hastily surround Bhima and essentially do the math on the battlefield. They use the evidence of the fight to deduce that, okay, these are definitely no ordinary priests. They ask themselves, who can encounter Karna in a fight? Only Rama, Drona, or Arjuna. And who can overthrow Salya in battle? Well, only Valadeva, Bhima, or Duryodhana. Realizing they're likely facing legendary heroes, they decide they must cease fighting immediately and protect these Brahmanas until their true identities are ascertained.
Right at this exact moment, Krishna steps in. Having carefully observed the battle and correctly recognized the brothers from their distinct fighting feats, he gently addresses the assembled monarchs. He tells them, "This maiden has been justly acquired," which validates the disguised Arjuna's victory in the prior archery contest. Krishna just so smoothly diffuses the tension. Accomplished as they are, the stunned kings abandon the fight and return to their respective kingdoms in absolute wonder, conceding that the festive scene has officially terminated in the victory of the Brahmanas.
Part 5, A Mother's Anxious Wait, Kunti's Escalating Fears.
Now we're going to drastically shift the pacing here, moving from the roaring adrenaline of the battlefield to a deeply tense, quiet, domestic scene. While her sons are out there literally defeating armies, their mother, Kunti, is waiting for them in the humble abode of a potter. Notice how her internal anxiety escalates as the hours tick by. First, she's just anxious that they're late. Then the catastrophic thoughts set in. What if they were recognized and slain by their enemies, the sons of Dhritarashtra? Then her mind goes even darker. What if they were killed by cruel Rakshasas using deceptive powers? Finally, her despair gets so deep she even begins to doubt the illustrious sage Vyasa, wondering if he guided her sons with perverse intelligence. It's such a powerful reminder of how parental anxiety operates entirely independently of reality, right? Her sons are out there as invincible epic heroes, yet she's experiencing a mother's deeply human vulnerability and escalating terror.
But just as her despair peaks in the stillness of the late afternoon, the tension finally breaks. The brothers, accompanied by a body of Brahmanas, finally return to the potter's abode. They've passed with difficulty out of the throng, a bit mangled by the enemy, but entirely triumphant. The text beautifully describes their arrival, stating, "They looked like the full moon and the sun emerging from the clouds on a cloudy day."
Which brings us to the end of our explainer, and I want to leave you with this final thought. We've just watched these brothers completely dismantle the world's greatest armies, overpowering legendary figures like Karna and Salya, all while dressed in simple deer skins and pretending to be peaceful priests. If they can cause this much destruction and awe while hiding their true strength in the shadows, imagine the absolute storm that will follow when the sun and moon finally emerge from the clouds and their true identities are unleashed upon the world. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the text. Until next time, keep learning.